again, a big move that can have implications on the way children study and how teachers teach, the way in which education is accessed in India. The centre has scrapped the no detention policy for classes 5 and 8 in schools governed by it, allowing them to fail students who do not clear the year-end exams. Now, this was not unexpected, as at least 16 states and 2 union territories have already done away with the no detention policy for the 2 grades after an amendment to the Right to Education Act in 2019. Now, the official notification today says that if students fail to clear the annual examinations, they will be given additional coaching and an opportunity to take a re-exam within 2 months of the results. But no child can be expelled by any school until their education is complete. That's what the government has also clarified. Remember, education is a state subject. The state's call is very important in this regard. But what does this mean for students, parents and schools? Remember, the no detention policy was also brought in to keep school dropouts in check. Will this increase the academic burden on students and on households? Will this incentivize schools to invest in quality teaching or not? Where does the accountability lie? And most importantly, will learning remain as important as clearing the exam? Many questions there. We will be joined by a panel of experts. Vrinda Sarup, Higher Education Secretary, joins us. We also have Bala MS, who's the Deputy Chairperson of the Steering Committee of Ministry of Education. And we also have Aparajita Gautam, who is the President of Delhi Parents Association. We have Dr. Sudha Acharya, Principal ITL School, who's also an educationist. Thank you all of you for joining me on this broadcast. But first, let me ask Vrinda Sarup. She's the former Education Secretary, so somebody who played a pivotal role in these policies. Thank you, Vrinda Sarup, for joining us on NDTV. Ma'am, my first question to you, the scrapping of the no detention policy, we know states have been doing away with this for some time now. How will this impact access to education outcomes or even how children view education in India?
So this is something which was in the making for a long time. And there was actually a committee which was set up. I think this has been going on since 2011. And a committee looked into it and recommended that this should be done. Then the RT Act was amended. I think now it's sort of been notified and is rolling out. But I think the arguments here were basically that if you keep promoting children without any Rubicon challenge to cross academically, then you cannot guarantee that learning is happening. And the learning scores, as you're aware, whether it was the national survey done by the NCRT or by ASAR, was showing very low levels of learning in primary grades. So therefore, it was felt that, automatic promotion is probably hindering the effort by students to learn and retain information, knowledge, learning, and so on and so forth. So I think this is an offshoot of that, which is that class 5 and 8, which are really the end of the primary cycle and the end of the upper primary cycle, where you should be tested so that you're fit to go to the level beyond. And I think this is the genesis of to improve learning levels, to improve an effort to learning.
Right. Ma'am, also the important aspects of education, be it joyful learning or experiential learning, learning in different ways, majorly from your environment, being concept-driven. How do you see all of this being balanced with the fact that exams too now have to be mandatorily cleared?
No, I don't think it will affect the pedagogy or the joyful learning or experiential learning. I don't think that will get affected at all, because nowhere is an exam barred under the RTE. There can be exams at class 1, there can be exams in class 3, there can be all up the primary and upper primary calendar. There is no bar on exams. The only bar was on detention. So pedagogy will not change, and and more of this competency-based pedagogy, joyful pedagogy, is something which is very active in pre-primary and up to class 3. At class 4, 5, serious studies do begin, and they remain experiential, they should remain joyful, they should remain connected with the child's environment. But I don't think in any way there is a pressure to be able to SWOT or by rote. We've already said that we must move away as a country from rote. So I think the joyful experiential pedagogy will not be affected by this.
Also, ma'am, when it comes to evaluation of students and training of teachers, what kind of changes do you see coming in there?
So I think what is fundamental in these two aspects is what mercifully now is being talked about is that you must have, they call it loosely competency based, but it's essentially what you're saying, joyful, experiential, connected to the child's life. And then therefore she learns better and she is able to, learn and able to imbibe knowledge in a very applicative and real manner. So she's moved away from rote and swatting. And that is what the whole pedagogy must be, is and therefore the assessment system also will not have regurgitation of knowledge by rote. It will be applicative. It will be related to some experience which the child goes through with that piece of knowledge. So once you start assessing that way, and I think this is where the great shift is due to happen in the Indian system, that your pedagogy and your assessment shifts to what is called now competency based, which is applicative, reasoning based, not a pressure on swatting and learning. So if this change comes about, then I think all the safeguards of a good education will be in place.
Right. Ma'am, my last question to you. In the last few years, we've also seen the focus improving on inclusive classrooms with the emphasis on schools being an equalizer. There are children with disabilities, where children with neurodiversity, slow learners. Concept of IEP or individualized education plan is also getting a lot of traction. With a focus now on exams, how should schools ensure that classrooms remain inclusive?
So this was one of the cornerstones of the Right to Education Act, that you must have inclusive classrooms. And in that, there were children with special needs of all kinds of challenges, whether it is cerebral or it is orthopedic or it is a learning difficulty or it is visual or audio and so on. And I think very fact that in the RT, that it also says that we must include children. There must be inclusive classrooms. Even private schools have to take 25% children from economically weaker sections. And of that, 3% is actually children with disabilities and who come from economically not so well off homes. So I think it's something which still needs a push. I don't think it's really over with. But I think all boards, school boards, I know CBSE does it, and I'm sure other state boards also follow suit, which is that there must be special educators, there must be special training to teachers, so that even a class teacher has to be able to integrate such children. And wherever extra help is required, you have special educators, you have counselors for both parents and for the child. And so you're able to have a much more inclusive classroom. But this is still work in progress from what I can make out from the whether private schools and certainly in government schools.
Vrinda Swarup, former Education Secretary there, speaking to NDTV. Thank you, ma'am, for joining us. Over to the guests now. Bala MS, to you first. We know that there's been a conversation around the no detention policy. Many experts have recommended rolling it back partially or fully. Some feel that this automatic promotion stops children from working hard. There are other aspects to it, low accountability of teachers. What are the learning outcomes going to be like? Is it something that you see as being addressed now? And at a time when we're talking about employability, skill-based education, do you think that this is a right call to make?
Yeah, thank you. The purpose of any education system across the globe, if you assess the student, to understand the understanding of the students is the main purpose of examination, right? Having said that, if you look at the no detention policy, which is, I think, at three aspects. One is, it is going to be a transformative shift, first of all, because this amendment represents a significant change in addressing the foundational learning, ensuring the students achieve minimum academic competencies essential for future success. Number two, alignment with development goals. Today, India supports the objective of becoming a developed nation by 2047, Viksit Bharat, through a robust, inclusive and quality education system. Number three, global competitiveness. When I say global competitiveness, when you establish the foundation for India, what it means, with leading education system globally, such as like Finland or South Korea or even in the United States, any country for that matter, Singapore for that matter, I think the global competitiveness, India will play a major role. So these are the very high level view. But if you look at if you look at India's educational standard, right? If you don't have this kind of policy, I think there will be no accountability, lack of accountability, and no focus on education. Anyway, I'm going to pass, so it's okay kind of attitude will be there. So what is more important, when we wanted to uplift the society, we wanted the low-income families to come up, only education is the only way where if they do foundationally strong, move into higher education so that the enrollment rate of gross enrollment ratio of higher education goes up,
right?
Unless until the foundational education is strong. Number two, we always say upliftment of women, upliftment of girl child, empowerment of women. Again, if the foundational literacy is not strong, this is going to be a fundamental challenge for their higher education, right? So I think it is very, very important from the, you asked another question, employability perspective.
Yes.
In fact, the country is moving towards deployability. Today, every person who has studied, every citizen of India who are well educated are ready to be deployable. That is how the Ministry of Education or the government, union government is taking all possible steps to generate deployable employment for every citizen. And that can happen only if the foundational literacy,
so I think the
school
foundation
education
literacy is key here. Aparajita Gautam, as somebody who represents parents here, and I am a parent too, and this is, I feel quite mixed about this because I want my child to not really focus too much on examinations. I don't want him to get into rote learning. I want learning to be fun for him. What are the concerns that parents have with regard to this?
थैंक यू वसुधा। इसमें मैं जस्ट ये कहना चाहूंगी, ये जो आज प्रॉपर सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट की तरफ से नोटिफिकेशन आया है, तो मुझे ऐसा लगता है इट्स वेरी गुड स्टेप। रीजन है, सबसे पहली बात, दिल्ली ने तो लास्ट ईयर से इसको एप्लीकेबल कर दिया था, बट हम प्रैक्टिकल एस्पेक्ट्स में देते हैं। मैं आपके साथ कुछ डेटा शेयर करना चाहूंगी, क्योंकि हम यहाँ पे लार्जर पर्सपेक्टिव में बात कर रहे हैं। ऑल ओवर इंडिया अराउंड 15 लाख स्कूल्स हैं, जिसमें से 10 लाख स्कूल्स जो हैं वो गवर्नमेंट स्कूल्स हैं। तो अगर हम गवर्नमेंट स्कूल्स में डेप्थ में जाके देखें, क्योंकि हमने प्रैक्टिकली भी इन चीजों को देखा है कि जहां पर राइट टू एजुकेशन एक्ट, जहां पर ये था कि 8th क्लास तक बच्चों को पास करना है, वहां पे बच्चों में सिंसियरिटी नहीं थी, ना ही पेरेंट्स में सिंसियरिटी थी। अगर गवर्नमेंट स्कूल्स के टीचर से आप बात करें तो उनको ये लगता था कि उनकी मजबूरी है उन बच्चों को पास करना जो यहाँ तक कि स्कूल भी अटेंड नहीं कर रहे हैं। तो यहाँ पर अभी जो इससे पहले जो एक सर थे जिन्होंने कहा था कि स्ट्रॉन्ग फाउंडेशन की बात, यस, जब हम एक स्टेप पर 5th में और 8th में थोड़ा सा हम एक ब्रेक डाल के कहते हैं नहीं, यहाँ पर आपको डिसाइड किया जाएगा कि आपको फर्दर आपको प्रमोट किया जाए या नहीं किया जाए, ये बहुत जरूरी है। क्योंकि फाउंडेशन अगर स्ट्रॉन्ग करनी है तो हमें थोड़े से ऐसे स्टेप्स लेने चाहिए, क्योंकि ऐसे स्टेप लेने से ही जो हम 10 लाख स्कूल्स की बात कर रहे हैं वहां पे सीरियसनेस आएगी। क्योंकि प्रैक्टिकली मैं दिल्ली, अगर मैं अपने दिल्ली की बात करूं तो यहाँ पर भी हम लोगों ने क्लोजली केसेस को स्टडी किया है और हमने ये देखा है दिल्ली जैसे स्टेट में भी यहाँ पर भी ऐसा हो रहा है, बच्चे सीरियसनेस नहीं दिखा रहे हैं। दूसरी बात, पेरेंट्स को डेफिनेटली समझना होगा। और मैं आपको एक चीज और बता देती हूँ, ऐसा नहीं है कि स्कूल्स में बच्चों के एग्जाम्स नहीं होते, एग्जाम्स तो होते हैं। जस्ट एक लेवल एक सेट कर देना कि 5th क्लास के बाद आपके बच्चों का असेसमेंट होगा।
So setting
और उस
standards, I think,
assessment
is
के
more
बाद
important.
हम
Sudha Acharya, you heard both the speakers say, ma'am, speak, ma'am. Studies which I've done, including ACER, have shown that both private and government schools, where a majority of students don't actually seem to know how to read proper sentences, or even basic arithmetic skills are something that they were found to be lacking. How can states ensure quality education, quality teachers before sort of bringing in this rule?
Yeah, I wholeheartedly welcome this policy. As Aparajita ma'am and Brinda ma'am, everybody was talking. We were observing complacency from the point of view of parents and no incentive to achieve or work towards excellence from the students' viewpoint. No accountability on the part of teachers. So all these were affecting the situation or quality of education to the extent that class 8 child was not able to read class 2 books. That was documented in Pratham report. So that was really a bad situation. Now, last whole 1 year, we are already implementing this policy. School is a place we are working or preparing children for life, not to fail them, not at all. So if school is providing a comforting, caring, compassionate environment, I believe every child can learn and thrive, irrespective of geographical, sociocultural, special needs, any identity. If we provide that kind of environment, every child can learn and thrive. That we have to believe. And one more thing, we were talking about assessment. Now the assessment has gone a sea change. We are talking about progress card in place of report card. We are talking about 360-degree holistic assessment where pen and paper test is just one part.
Okay.
We are talking about multiple assessment, portfolio, subject enrichment,
Right.
project-based assessment. So whether the child is really working for a special assembly or role play or taking part in a rally or making a video or brochure, everywhere we can assess the child. It's not only rote memorization.
Okay.
So we
No,
are
that's a very
moving
good
away
point.
from-
Last word from you, Bala MS. You spoke about foundational skills. What about the poor households, sir? Because most of them may not really have the sources or enthusiasm to agree for a repeat year of their children.
See, if they are not going to take this very seriously, their life is going to get stuck somewhere. They are not even able to go across the school education. They're going to have a challenge in building their family, and it's going to continue to be a low-income family all the time. See, you look at SDG 4, the quality education, which talks about inclusive, equitable, quality learning for students, especially at foundation level. I think that is what getting emphasized today now. And also, there is a very clear demarcation given by the UNESCO saying that the significant proportion of Indian students lack appropriate foundational literacy and numeracy skills. That is where today NEP 2020 have made a fundamental shift in the entire learning phase. Although the country since independence has been focusing more on teaching, today the last 15 years, we've been focusing on the learning mode. If this is not going to be taken in a right sense, I think the low-income families, the non-empowerment, everything going to remain the same, and there is not going to be a fundamental shift in the value system of the entire family.
Much all of you for joining me on this broadcast. The focus, like our panelist also pointed out, is on foundational skills. The government, of course, has clarified that no child will be expelled from any school till completion of elementary education. But what is important here is that the emphasis is not wholly on getting good marks, not on rote learning, and more importantly, having an inclusive space where it's the activity-based learning that drives the child, not the pressure of exams. That's all we have for you in this show. More news on the other side.